I am here, and I'm not sure what to call these segments yet, but I thought in light of doing, I do Mama Fita Mondays every Monday. And this time I'm like, you know what? I think that this time we should do something a little different and talk about some real stuff. I'm hoping to also do Mama Fita Monday, so y'all can join me on Mama Fita. There's so many different ways that you could do workouts at home, y'all. Like a folder, a laundry basket, as you have seen. Too, I know that especially after pregnancy, my thighs were thick, but not in a way that it was flattering. And it was not distributed in the way that I like it. I do think we should get back to ourselves, but get back to our normality. And whatever that means for you, hopefully these workouts could help you kind of figure out how to do that. But let's get to our topic today, and that is 10 things I wish I knew before pregnancy. And so I know all of you mothers out there who are looking at this, or all of you soon to be or wanting to be mothers and kind of thinking about a pregnancy. And especially I know in this COVID situation, it's kind of been hard for people to decide to grow their families. But for those of you who are already in it, girls, let me tell you some things that I learned and that I wish I had known. I was not given that guide that I so needed, that many mothers so need. So anyways, let me take my coffee break. Y'all ever like your coffee black? By the way, black coffee is so good. It's so good. And Mac Cafe coffee Keurigs are actually really good, by the way. Just FYI. But the first thing I'm gonna tell you about is that everyone says that your first or your second trimester is so wonderful. Look at me, y'all. It's not for everybody. Okay? So my second trimester was actually very difficult. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you get a really, your libido levels start rising, and you don't get nauseous anymore. You start feeling better in terms of pregnancy symptoms. You become like more yourself. You feel like yourself. Like you feel like you can eat anything. For some reason, my second trimester was actually like one of the worst trimesters. I was nauseous the entire time, and it was so one of the things that people don't tell you is the possibility that you may not have that experience like everyone else. And it's okay, but there are ways that you can help it. So for example, what I did in my second trimester, first of all, that's when I did some yoga, which helped. I like pregnancy yoga, and there are videos online that you can watch, not by me, but by other people that have done pregnancy yoga all the time. And then I had to, those little, what are those called? It's like lemon heads, but they're like, it's called I think they're called pregnancy pops. That's what I had to do, is get like a bunch of pregnancy pops, and only the citrus ones actually helped. So it was really difficult, so to say the least. So that's number one. Number two, everyone knows that it is very likely that you'll get stretch marks during your pregnancy. I got a lot of them, and it was very hard for me to see. Now, I will say, I had stretch marks before pregnancy, but these stretch marks, yo, these pregnancy stretch marks, hey, they were no joke. They were not the same kind of, it just felt like they were very different stretch marks than puberty stretch marks, okay? As soon as I realized I was pregnant, I bought that cocoa butter lotion, the one with the little pregnant woman on it and stuff, and it helps your skin, all that stuff. Used it from day one. It did not work, okay? I still got them stretch marks, and they still were very visible. Could they have been worse? Maybe, but I can't tell because my stretch marks were there, and they are still there to stay, y'all. And I did not scratch my belly. I never did any of that. I moisturized every day. I put oils, lotions. You can ask my husband. Listen, I put everything on my belly, my thighs, my butt. Girl, I slept in that, okay? And it did not work, okay? So just FYI, there might be things out there that do work. I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying that, you know, no stretch mark creams will work. I'm not saying that if you have stretch marks, if you are pregnant, you are definitely gonna get stretch marks. Very big possibility, as most women do. You know, I'm not saying that it's something that you can't prevent. But cocoa butter was definitely not the most preventable cream for me, clearly, because it did not prevent it. Maybe I needed something else, y'all. Y'all help me. What did y'all use? Like, if y'all used something else, or maybe you're still using something else, just like describe it in the comment box below, and let us know. Like, what are some of the products that you use to help these stretch marks? Because, hunty, these stretch marks were there to stay, okay? They're like, I'm gonna be right here, right after you give birth to, and they are still there. And now I will say that toning my body down and doing core workouts and all of those things have definitely helped minimize the visibility of those stretch marks, but they're definitely still there. Number 3, nobody tells you while you are pregnant, your vagina literally feels like it's bruised. Okay? It feels like it's bruised. Like, you cannot do anything. Now, from my understanding, this is due to the fact that, well, at the time, I was late in that trimester. And so my pelvis and all of that, the floor, my pelvic floor, all of it, girl, dropped my coffee. The pelvic floor can definitely be, I guess, can definitely it could weaken, or it could feel very weak. And so that's why they always tell you to do like those Kegels and things like that, especially after pregnancy. It really helps. So it helps everything come back together. However, that pain went on for like most of my 3rd trimester, and then even after I gave birth to my child. And so ice helped a lot. Making sure that I'm sitting down helped a lot, because, man, as soon as I was standing up, it felt like my child was about to, like, we were a thin layer away from my child, like, just slipping through my vagina. Like, that's what it felt like. But clearly that's not how the anatomy works, I guess. But it did feel that way, and that's normal, because that means it's almost time for that baby to come through the birth canal. So number 4, y'all, let's give a moment of silence, y'all. This is a moment of silence for my edges, okay? Because after pregnancy, my edges were gone. Bruh. Now, I think I was going through some things, and I don't actually have pictures of when my edges were gone. But please believe my edges were gone. And I actually had to go online and look at so many different ways on how to help me grow my edges again, or at least hide that I had edges at the time, because I was so embarrassed. Like, a lot of the hairstyles that I did really depended on having a really strong line of edges, y'all. I mean, like, I couldn't even put braids on. I love doing braids, and I couldn't put braids on my hair. I couldn't, like, bring tension to my hair. Now, I will advise y'all to do that. Please do not put tension on your hair if you see that your edges are really weak, especially after pregnancy. I actually used, I think it was called a growth elixir. I'm gonna have to put the link or something around here so y'all can see. I mean, this thing was a miracle drop. Like, it literally, every single time I put it on my edges, it felt like really nice. You just massage it through. I did that every single night until, voila, I saw edges. And I was so pleased. I was so pleased with this product. And so, during the time I did not have those edges, what I used, it basically looked like it was painted on hair, I guess, for lack of better words, painted on hair. And you could even use, like, a lip liner, eyeliner. I know this sounds all crazy. I really do. I know it. But if you can get away with it and you've lost edges, but, like, you still got your hair, then it will work. Like, you just kind of put it around the sides here. You put it around, you know, your edges where it would be. I took vitamins my entire pregnancy, and so I had this misconception that somehow I would not lose hair if I took vitamins. And You know, I don't know where I got that from. That's just my logic. I don't know who told me that. Nobody did, probably. I just came up with that myself. And somehow I thought, oh, I took vitamins, like I'm good, like I'm Gucci, you know, like I am healthy, all of those things. And girl, I still ended up losing all my edges. And so, and I was eating right, like all throughout my pregnancy. I was eating healthy enough. I mean, there'd be the occasional bag of chips that I ate the entire bag of. Something that I wish I knew was some things kind of get a little saggy, okay? So I was a person who I actually, like, for a lot of my college years, I actually didn't even wear a bra. TMI, sorry. But I had a lot of back issues. A lot of the times I could get away with not wearing any, with not wearing a bra. I was not able to do that after pregnancy or even during pregnancy anymore. Obviously, when you are pregnant, your body is getting prepared to be able to feed your child, to be able to breastfeed. And some things get a little bulgy and larger and swollen. And so you can't just not wear a bra sometimes. Like, it just doesn't work out. I went from a 34C, and then I went up to a 34 double D during my pregnancy. And now I had actually been a double D before, but my pregnancy's double D was like, y'all, there was some real double D's, okay? And I was like, okay, this is new, and was not fun because my back was hurting all the time due to the heavy lifting, okay? After pregnancy, I actually decided to stop breastfeeding. And one day I'll tell you all a little bit more about my journey when it comes to breastfeeding. But I decided to not breastfeed after a few months of breastfeeding. And then it was hard for me to see that my body was really changing after deciding to not breastfeed. So it was like everything was saggy. And you know, it's actually very common for your breasts to be saggy, right? After a pregnancy or after, it's very common. But what they don't tell you, y'all, is that other parts of your body can also be saggy, like your butt, okay? Now, I didn't have much to begin with, but it is something that you can also visibly see, and especially if you are thicker and you have more of a butt, then it might even be even more visible. So that is something that I realized after pregnancy, and I was like, whoa, I gotta get this back together and feel like myself again. And number 6 is that your skin can also get really saggy. So you think about your breasts, you think about your butt, okay, those are very normal, but my belly area got really, really saggy. Now, obviously it makes a lot of sense, right? It's like you inflate like a balloon and you have all of this space because you had a baby. Now, as soon as it's almost like this traumatic change that happens, a sudden change in your weight. And 9 months is not a lot of time for your body to get adjusted to that weight. So of course it stretches. And then there's a sudden deflation, right, to your weight or to your skin. So like now it feels like you literally like popped a balloon and it's slowly deflating. Slowly deflating. I don't know what this is. Or maybe I should have done like this. Slowly deflating. And your stomach is now that saggy balloon that you deflated. Saggy skin is very, very hard to tighten. And it's 2 years later, y'all, and I'm still working on this pregnancy body. So number 7, get a good prenatal chiropractor. Y'all, now I know that it might be a little difficult nowadays to get that, but there are prenatal chiropractors. I did not know this prior to being pregnant. When I was pregnant, my back was hurting so bad. I always have back problems, but my back was hurting even worse, obviously, when I was pregnant because of all the extra weight that I was carrying. So I actually found this great chiropractor and actually was able to have these like chairs where there was like a big indention where you could put your belly, okay, a little hole where you can put your belly and still lay down and have support for your belly so that you are able to get your back attended. Number 8 is such a real one. It is very possible that you will feel lonely as a pregnant woman. It is such a lonely process, and I didn't realize that until I realized that, right? I was pregnant, there were a lot of my friends who weren't mothers yet at the time, who weren't pregnant, who didn't know what it was like to be pregnant. It was like hard for me to hear these comments about pregnancy, and it was coming from women who weren't ever pregnant, making these comments about the obvious pregnant woman. It was a very lonely process, y'all. It's also lonely because you are sharing it with your partner. My husband was I don't even understand. One day I'm gonna have to tell you how perfect this man was. I could not ask for a better partner when it came to how he handled my pregnancy. I didn't have to lift a finger. He encouraged me to work out. He encouraged me to stay healthy. He reminded me about my vitamins. He would go on walks with me. At the time, like I said, I was living in Chicago, so taking the train from Hyde Park to all the way to Ravenswood. If y'all know anything about Chicago, that's a very long commute in the L. And so from one place to another, for a pregnant woman to be on the L, where you may or may not get a seat. Now they will tell you that if there's an older woman or a pregnant woman or an older person who needs a seat, give your seat up for them. But you cannot guarantee that everyone will do that. And sometimes the trains kind of move a little bit, and if you don't have an appropriate seat, you might hit something, right? And I was afraid that being pregnant, I would hit my belly or something would happen, right? And so my husband actually took me to work every single day. Now, he had the privilege and chance to do that, even though it was way out of his way to go to the school where he was teaching at. Now, I say all of this to say that even while I had the best partner ever, it was actually still a very lonely process. There was a lot of times where I could not describe to him what I was feeling, and he was never going to feel that. This pregnancy was definitely lonely because I didn't know what to expect, and I wasn't sure what pregnancy looks like for real. So, number 9. My feet grew, y'all. My feet grew. Slightly grew for some reason. It was from a 7.5 to a 7.6, not quite an 8, but not quite a 7.5. And so I always have to get wides now, like a 7.5 or 7.5 wide if they offer that, because it fits my feet better than the 7.5. Number 10, very interesting. You can leak milk before you give birth. I was in my 3rd trimester. I didn't could see the milk. And so my husband thought I was crazy because I couldn't see the milk leaking out, but I could feel it. I could feel the milk leaking out. And so when I talked to my OBGYN at the time, she actually told me that, yeah, that is actually very common, and it's like your milk trying to come in. Now, what's interesting is that afterwards, when I gave birth to my son, my milk actually did not come in until maybe 24 hours later. And so I was like, if I felt it before my baby came, how come it didn't rush through when he, first popped out? That is 10 things I wish I knew before I was pregnant or even during my pregnancy. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel and learn all about the mommy things that I've learned in my journey. And I'll see you guys on my next one. Bye.